platform because it does not require the public to purchase or download any additional software or equipment to attend this meeting. Aside from the Zoom webinar platform that the participants will use to attend remotely, the public will have no discernible difference in their ability to watch the meeting from that of someone physically attending the meeting. Instruction to join this virtual meeting, as well as contact information for a TPA staff member to assist you, are provided in the published meeting agenda. Please note that although some members of the TAC are attending the meeting in person, committee members will be appearing at today's meeting remotely, either via webcam or telephone. Additionally, scheduled presenters and the TAC liaison will also be appearing via webcam or telephone. Staff, please call the roll so that we can establish a quorum.
Before I call the roll, I'm sorry, my microphone's weird. Before I call the roll, I want to remind members present in person to unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. When it's red, it means it's on. Members present virtually, please remember to unmute yourselves, and my staff will also assist you. And alternates, please state your name if you are attending on behalf of a TAC representative. Jim Bell.
Here.
Maria Tahara. Gary Dunmeyer.
Here.
Richard Pereira.
Here.
Kenny Wilson. Thomas Driscoll.
Tianjin Lan on behalf.
Jamie Brown. Michael Morrow.
Mike Morrow from Natalie.
I'm sorry, Mike. I was so used to saying your name. Kim Glass Castro.
Here.
Gary Sypek.
Will Hicks for Gary Sypek.
Brian Davis.
Present.
Levi McCollum.
Anna Bielowska for Levi McCollum.
Aaron Hoffman.
Here.
Terrence Bailey is absent. Christopher Marsh.
Here.
Joyce Kai.
Here.
Lorraine Cargill. Kim Delaney.
Here.
Michael Odell.
Here.
Alex Hansen.
Here.
Michael Volbrick. I'm
Kevin
sorry,
Volbrecht
Volbrick.
here,
I'm so
present.
sorry. I'm struggling, you guys. John Crane.
John Podzawinski on behalf of John Crane.
Modisum Alterk.
Yes.
Kara Ferris.
Here.
And then, Madam Chair, I do want to go back to a few that I think we're having problems unmuting. So I see Jamie Brown, if you can just state for the record that you're present.
I'm present.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
then I believe Vicky Gatanis is here. If you can just state for the record that you're present, please.
Present.
Thank you. And then I think we are missing Kenny Wilson, and I also see you're in my panelist list. Can you just state for the record that you're present, please?
I'm here.
Thank you. And then my last one is Maria Tahara, and if you can please state for the record that you're present.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Staff, are there any modifications to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, moving on. Motion to approve minutes for May 5th, 2021. Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, may I have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented?
So move. This is Alex.
Second, Mike Odell.
So I have a motion by Alex Hansen and a second by Michael Odell.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say A.
Hey. Hey.
Hey.
Hey.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Moving on to general public comments and public comments on agenda items. I will summarize our public comment procedures for this virtual meeting. Written comments may be submitted online at the website provided in the agenda. Verbal comments may be made by a virtual attendee using the raise hand feature in the Zoom platform. Lastly, a verbal and a written comment may be provided by an in-person attendee submitting a comment card available at the welcome table. Staff, have any general comments been received?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. I would like to welcome Levi McCollum as the newest appointment on the TAC.
He's not present at this meeting. He was a new appointment at our May meeting.
All right, thank you. I don't have any comments. If any committee members have a comment for the committee, please utilize the raise hand function of the Zoom platform to ask to be recognized, and then remember to unmute your microphone once you are recognized. Do I have any hands raised?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll move on to the TAC Liaison Report. Connor, would you please come provide us with a report?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. Connor Campabasso with the Palm Beach TPA. I'm going to start the liaison report. First things first with some new staff members here at the TPA. So I wanted to first welcome Melissa Murray. She is our new Public Relations Director. And I also want to welcome Cassidy Sparks. She is our Public Relations Specialist. We look forward to their contributions as we work collaboratively to advance the TPA's mission. May was National Bicycle Month. In order to celebrate it, the TPA staff participated in the Love to Ride Challenge. And we rode a total of 724 miles, joining about 1,100 participants from 71 other workplaces statewide. Throughout the month, over 266,000 miles were ridden, of which commuter trips alleviated almost 5,000 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions. On April 30th, the Southeast Florida Transportation Council hosted a virtual workshop to discuss the future implementation of commuter rail on the FEC Railway. A recording of the meeting is available at the Palm Beach TPA.org/SEFTC workshop website. Additionally, the TPA held a workshop on May 14th to hear from transit industry leaders on how they're moving forward with enhanced transit. The recording for this meeting is available at the Palm Beach TPA's website at palmbeachtpa.org/meetings. The Florida LTAP Center will be hosting a basic highway plan reading webinar on June 1st, 8th, and 15th at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you're interested, you can register by visiting floridaltap.org/training-calendar. FDOT is hosting a GAP Systems webinar training on June 7th at 9 a.m. for local agencies. This system will be replacing the Local Agency Program Information Tool, the LAPIT system. To register, please visit the website on the liaison report. It's quite long, so I'll just skip that for now. Up next, Bicycle Friendly Business Program recognizes employers for their efforts to encourage a more welcoming atmosphere for bicyclists, bicycling employees, customers, and the community. The application window is open through June 10th. To apply, please visit bikeleague.org/business. Municipalities are encouraged to apply for walk-friendly communities designation through June 15th. For more information on that, you can visit walkfriendly.org. The next TPA governing board meeting will be held on June 17th at 9 a.m., both in person and virtually. To view the agenda packet and meeting details, please visit palmbeachtpa.org/board. The next round of pedestrian and bicycle highway high visibility enforcement, or HVE, funding will become available July 1st. There will be law enforcement roundtable meetings on June 8th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office Training Center at 4215 Cherry Road, West Palm Beach, Florida. For more information, you can send an email to ped, so ped.bike.safety@iptm.org. And last item I have for this morning is the application window for Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, or RAISE grant, formerly known as Build and Tiger, is now open. The maximum grant award is $25 million, and the application deadline is July 12th of this year. For more information, please see transportation.org/RAISE grants for more details. And that is all I have for this morning. I'd like to pass it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Connor. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Do any committee members have any comments or questions on the liaison report? Any raised hands?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to action items. Motion to recommend adoption of the fiscal year 2022 to 26 Transportation Improvement Program TIP. I'd like to invite Jason Price, the TPA TIP Coordinator, to present this item.
Morning, everyone. So today I'll present to you the final draft of the TIP for adoption. And as a reminder, this is an action item that will require a vote at the end of the presentation and discussion. And the TIP covers the years between 2022 and 2026, and is all of the projects that are programmed by the FDOT and their work program, as well as other regional and local projects. But just as a brief reminder to the group, the TPA's mission is to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the transportation system. And by way of the TIP document, we're focusing on the fund aspect of the TPA's mission stated on the slides. And in adopting the final draft TIP, as part of the TPA's public participation plan, this document, the final document before you today, is presented as a whole document and can only be voted on as presented without changes. If changes are to be considered, such as additions or deletions, they can be considered at a future meeting after there is a public comment period to consider the proposed changes. So next, to review the timeline of getting to a final TIP adoption, it first begins in July 2020, where the TPA priority list is assembled and approved by the TPA governing board. That TPA priority list is then provided to FDOT to evaluate for funding, and then they incorporate the TPA priority list into the draft tentative work program. That when that is released, we take that draft tentative work program and then craft the draft TIP that I presented last month, and then in final form before you today. And once this document is adopted, we'll begin to operate under the adopted TIP in months to come. Now, this is just another snapshot or summary of the total funding within the TIP, broken down by the project sections. And so here you see the lion's share of the funding is in the strategic intermodal system capacity section, and that comprises of quite a bit of federal and state funds, and those state funds are inclusive of turnpike projects that are funded through turnpike revenues. I'll just give a brief summary of some of the major sections within the Transportation Improvement Program, and that starts with the strategic intermodal system projects. And as I mentioned with the turnpike, a majority of the funds is about $696 million in turnpike widening projects, including 3 interchange projects. The second largest being in that same category of the slide that I previously presented, there's about $222 million for FDOT I-95 interchange projects, both new and modified interchanges. That's followed by a few select projects here where you see I-95 widening studies for Linton Boulevard to Okeechobee Boulevard, and also Indiantown Road to Martin County line. And the last two here is Beeline Highway widening. That includes Beeline and North Lake intersection for about 144 million. And lastly, the State Route 80 turn lanes at Australian Avenue and at State Road 7 for approximately 11 million. Now we'll move on to the three TPA priority projects sections, and the first one being the state road modifications projects. And here we have about 190 million in total for all of the projects within this section. The largest amount being for road construction at approximately 135 million for the State Route 7 extension, as well as the Atlantic Avenue widening. And then after that, we'll see about 37 million is being programmed for the 561 transit corridor, 561 plan that includes the transit corridors. And those corridors are US 1, Okeechobee Boulevard, Lake Worth Road, and Boynton Beach Boulevard. Followed by the State Route 80 lighting project funded at 15 million. And lastly, there's some other state roadway modifications that recently came online and have begun design for about 3 million. Now, in addition to the state road modification program, there's also two grant programs, and the first one being the Local Initiatives Grant Program, which is a annual competitive grant process administered by the TPA. And in this particular TIP document, we see about $113 million that are programmed within the TIP, and the largest portion of that is about 76.4 million in complete streets project, constructing bicycle and pedestrian facilities through those projects. The next up is transit projects for about 17.5 million, and that includes the fare interoperability project for Palm Tran, as well as new bus shelters, conversion to electric buses, and also some new rolling stock or trains for SFRTA that operates Tri-Rail. And there's also some signal upgrades that are programmed in Boca Raton, as well as the town of Palm Beach. And lastly is the planning activities, which are the TPA, for the TPA that includes corridor studies. The other grant program that is administered by the TPA is the Transportation Alternatives Program, and this is also an annually competitive grant program. It's the smaller of the two, and it has a total of 18 million in funds programmed in this current TIP before you today, and the majority of those funds are complete streets projects for bicycle and pedestrian facilities, as well as the remaining 3 million on ADA compliance and bringing facilities up to ADA compliance in particular neighborhoods, as well as some Palm Tran transit shelter locations. There are also some other construction highlights to note here that are upcoming in 2022, next year. And these are all derived from the Palm Beach County 5-year work program, and they include some resurfacing projects that you see on the slide here, as well as a range of county road capacity projects that are all predominantly widening projects from 3 lanes or to 5 lanes. And lastly, there's a bridge replacement project here on County Road 880 over the C51 canal. Now, as the last section of the TIP, we also complete some fiscal analysis for some specific taxes, and those being the State Comprehensive and Enhanced Transportation System Tax, or we'll call it SCETS tax here. And this particular tax is collected in the county. And what we're tracking here is ensuring that the taxes that are collected in the county are also programmed in the county. And as you see here on the slide, that it is on target for the 275 million that is collected is being programmed within the target. There is a remaining of about 10.5 million as a balance, but that is also spent within the district, the FDO, the district that it's collected in, that includes Palm Beach County. There are also the other two portions of this fiscal analysis is the I-95 expressway, express lane revenues in Palm Beach County. And so here we see that the Boca Raton section is now open and operational, so it is collecting toll revenues. And so as they open, the toll revenues can only be used for the operation, maintenance, and improvement of the facility, as well as to operate, maintain, and improve the state highways within the counties where the revenue is collected. And lastly, to support express bus service on those facilities. Now, the last part of the fiscal analysis is tracking the multi-use corridors of regional economic significance, also known as MCORs. And so we track MCORs and the progress of that to ensure that if there's any fiscal impacts or financial impacts that could occur that would impact any of the revenues or funding that is allocated for Palm Beach County. So these are outside the county on the western part of the state. But we track them just to keep an eye on how the revenues are, how the funding is utilized for MCORs to ensure that there's no adverse impacts or any kind of impacts to the funding that comes to Palm Beach County. And what's noted here is that Senate Bill 100 is expected to dissolve the MCORs program, but we're still tracking the progress of it. And so with that, that concludes my presentation. I'll ask for a motion to recommend adoption of the 22 through 26 Transportation Improvement Program. Thanks.
Thank you. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, I need a motion to recommend adoption of the fiscal year 22-26 TIP, and then I will open the floor to discussion.
I move to adopt the fiscal year 22-26 TIP.
I second. This is Maria Tejera.
Okay, so I had a first by Vicky and a second by Maria. And then I have hands raised virtually. I don't have any tent cards up in person. So I have CJ first, Alex, and then Jamie, I think, had his hand raised, but then he lowered it. So CJ, then Alex.
Okay, CJ?
And he is muted, so I'll just prompt him to unmute.
Sorry.
It's okay. We can hear you now.
Yeah, I raised a comment last month about the Indian Town Road interchange project. The number is FN number 4397581. I was asking the FDOT to clarify the scope of the work in the descriptions to include the westbound additional auxiliary land on Indian Town Road from Jupiter West Plaza to I-95 southbound on-ramp. But I see the description still remain the same. So I requesting again that please clarify this with the state project manager and then revise the description accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alex?
Yeah, the TIP includes the widening of State Road 7 from Okeechobee to and then north of Okeechobee, and then the new section of State Road 7. Again, these are projects I had mentioned previously. These are projects that the city of West Palm Beach strongly opposes. As a result, I cannot support the adoption of the TIP with inclusion of these projects.
Thank you, Alex. Jamie?
Yeah, good morning. On the last page of the local initiatives program that you guys have on there, and I was looking on the backup, I didn't see that calendar that you'd put up before, Jason. But at what point you've got the unfunded local initiative projects on there for Palm Tran, Lake Worth, Wellington, and Royal Palm Beach? At what point in that process would those be considered for funding?
They will be considered for funding, and we'll submit those projects as part of the list of priority projects next month in July. And so those projects that were unfunded last round will be prioritized before the projects that are submitted this year as part of the annual competitive grant process. So they'll receive priority over the projects submitted this year. And so we're expecting, if funding is available, to be applied towards those projects first.
Okay.
And I have Anna Bielaska from Palm Tran.
Good morning. I wanted a clarification on FM number. This is for electric bus 4460981. We're showing it as 2.1 million in TPA flex and trip in the tip, and the initial award that Palm Tran received, the initial award letter stated it as 3.7 million.
Yes, I have received your request and I was going to respond back to you today. I did look into it. And so I did see that there was a difference in the totals in terms of how much was being requested and how much was provided. And it ended up being a 50-50 match between the SU funds, the TPA funds provided for the project, and the TRIP funds. So it's split in half. And the total amount of the funds required to implement the project is all there. So it does add up to the total amount to construct the project. So in that regards, nothing is missing to construct the project, but the funding amounts differ in order to get to the total amount for the project. And so I believe it was just an adjustment by FDOT to match the TRIP funds instead of providing the exact amount of SU that was requested in the actual grant, in the application. So I'll look a little further into it, but in total, there's enough money to completely implement the project. It just happens to be a 50-50 split between the TRIP funds and the TPA funds, as opposed to what was actually requested, which is the 3.7 that you're referring to. But I'll definitely follow up with you with that answer.
All right, understood. Thank you for the clarification.
Do we have any other hands raised?
I do not have any other hands raised.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, I have a motion by Vicky and a second by Maria. We're going to do this vote by roll call. Margie, please call the roll.
So the motion on the floor is to recommend adoption of the fiscal year 22 to 26 Transportation Improvement Program as presented. Before I call the roll, virtual members, please unmute your microphones. In-person members, please remember to turn on your microphones. Please respond by either saying yes or no when I call your name. Jim Bell,
Yes.
Maria Tahara,
Yes.
Gary Dunmeyer.
Yes.
I'm sorry, is it yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Pereira,
Yes.
Kenny Wilson,
Yes.
Chang Jen Lan,
Yes.
Jamie Brown,
Yes.
Michael Morrow,
Yes.
Kim Glass Castro,
Yes.
Will Hicks,
Yes.
Brian Davis,
Yes.
Anna Brulowska,
Yes.
Aaron Hoffman,
Yes.
Terrence Bailey is absent, Christopher Marsh,
Yes.
Joyce Kai,
Yes.
Vicky Gatanis,
Yes.
Kim Delaney,
Yes.
Michael Odell,
Yes.
Alex Hansen,
No.
Kevin Volbrecht,
No.
Modus Amalturk,
Yes.
thank you. Kara Ferris,
Yes,
it passes with 2 opposed, Madam Chair.
thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to informational items. First item A is Atlantic Avenue project update, Turnpike to Jog Road. I'd like to invite Alexander Estrada from FDOT to present this item this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Today we're gonna discuss the Atlantic Avenue PD&E update. My name is Alexander Estrada with the Florida Department of Transportation, District 4. Next slide, please. So our agenda today is we're gonna go over the project overview, traffic projections, bill alternatives, as well as the schedule. So we previously presented this last year, and today we're just gonna update on the things that we've been working on, as well as alternatives that we are looking forward. And with that, I'm gonna let the PD&E team go into more detail about the project.
Thank you, Alex. So I'm John Scarlatos from Scalar Consulting. I'm the assistant project manager, and I also have Hassan on the line, which is the lead traffic engineer for the project. So the project and purpose, we're looking to address capacity needs by meeting existing and future travel demand. So we're looking to widen from 4 to 6 lanes, improve the local and regional transportation network while providing enhanced safety for vehicles, bicyclists, as well as pedestrians. So the project is needed to relieve congestion. Certain segments of the corridor are already over capacity. The project has been identified in the Palm Beach TPA's 2045 LRTP. We're looking to improve emergency evacuation, as this is a connector to the turnpike on the west end of the project, where the turnpike serves as an SAS.
John, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Your audio is cutting in and out. We're kind of getting every other word that you're saying.
Okay. Let me try something. Is it any better now?
Yes, if it cuts out again, we'll let you know. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Improve emergency evacuation. So this is provides a connection to the turnpike, which is an SIS facility. East on Atlantic Avenue, further down outside of our limits, we also connect to I-95 as well, which is another SAS facility. So there's an existing sidewalk gap from Michelangelo Boulevard to west of Jog Road, which is on the south side of Atlantic Avenue. So as part of this project, we're looking to include sidewalks as well as buffered bicycle lanes on both sides to eliminate any gaps. So about the project, these are the study limits. We're looking at the turnpike to Jog Road. The project is in an unincorporated Palm Beach County. As I mentioned, we're looking to widen from 4 to 6 lanes and include bicycle and pedestrian features. The corridor is approximately 1.8 miles in length. The existing right-of-way is varying from 113 to 175 feet. The context classification for this project is a C3 suburban commercial, urban principal arterial with a 45 mile per hour speed limit. So this is our project development process flow chart. So the planning phase has already been completed. We are now in the PD&E phase, which is approximately a 2-year process. Following the PD&E phase will be design and right-of-way, which is typically 2 to 3 years. And then we'll go to construction, which would be 2 to 4 years. So the no-build design year, which is for 2045, lane configuration is shown here with the various levels of service that we'll have in the year 2045 if no improvements are made. You'll notice a lot of these intersections where you see the hot pink color are going to be operating at a level of service F. The delays get really high on some of these, particularly at the Jog Road intersection. You'll see you have up to 128 seconds of delay. So this would be under the no build. In the build, assuming that we do the 6-lane widening, you'll notice significant improvements throughout all of the intersections, with the exception of Jog Road still, which will still be failing even with adding the through lane capacity at Jog. But all the other intersections, as you'll notice, will be achieving acceptable level of service in the year 2045 with the additional lane. So we want to talk a little bit about the Jog Road, since that'll still be failing on some options that we have developed. So before we get into that, we just want to look at some of the adjacent access with Jog Road, because that's going to be part of our discussion for alternatives at this intersection. So you'll notice at Atlantic Avenue, there's an existing turn lane that comes into the Kings Point, which is a median left turn westbound to southbound. We also have Seville Terrace, not just a little bit to the west of Jog, which does have a left in as well as left out. And then down on Jog Road, south of Atlantic Avenue, you'll notice we have a signalized intersection, which allows for left turns in as well as left turns out. So these are a couple of the things that we want to discuss in the next few slides. As we mentioned, in the future design year, we still are looking at failing level of service in this condition. So this is showing the existing intersection with just putting in the additional through movement. There's several access changes that would happen with this, which we're still maintaining dual lefts at all of the approaches. The way it is today, we're just going to include the extra through lane. So with that, there's a few access changes that would result in these improvements. So the first one is having to close the westbound left turn into Kings Point. That is the number one. That is to accommodate additional storage for the left turn lanes, as well as meet access management criteria due to the signal spacing being just a few hundred feet to the east. The other thing is here at Seville Terrace, since we are closing that left turn, we have added an extra left at Seville to allow U-turns to be accommodated to come back into the Kings Point shopping center. The other location, which we talked about, the signal, that signalized intersection would have to be removed in order to allow additional storage for the left turns to go westbound on Atlantic Avenue. That's a very heavy movement at this intersection. So these are some of the key access issues with this. So what we looked at is what can we do, some innovative ideas to improve this intersection and actually make it work operationally in the design year 2045, and have developed this partial displaced left turn concept. Now, the way the partial displaced left turn concept works is the left turn movements on the main line of Atlantic Avenue have a crossover location where they'll come into another lane, as opposed to making a left at the main intersection like it does today. So by doing this, a couple of new signals will be added to accommodate those movements. And that allows for left turns to be made while the through movements and the right turn movements are also happening at the same time. You'll notice pedestrians, they'll be able to cross over. They have islands here where they can cross to before getting to the other intersection. Bicyclists may still use the bike lanes, or they could also use sidewalks if they prefer to do so. So this is kind of the concept that we're looking at, which helps us achieve acceptable level of service in the design year 2045. So that's the operations of it. And now we want to talk a little bit about the access issues associated with this concept. So one of them is we would have to close the left turn opening into the Atlantic Square shopping center. And and that is to accommodate left turn lanes for the displaced lefts that we just talked about to bring them at a new signal. In this location, which is similar to the previous concept that we talked about, we would still have to close the left turn into the Kings Point Shopping Center. In addition, for this one, because we need the additional storage length for these left turns, we do not have adequate storage to provide a left into Seville Terrace. So the left turn into Seville would also have to be closed, and U-turns would have to be made at the intersection further down, which is at Cumberland Road. The location number 4, which is the signalized intersection that we talked about before, in this concept, we would still have to remove that to accommodate these left turn lanes for the additional storage. So that's some of the key things. The benefit about this concept, as we mentioned, the key thing is that it will achieve acceptable level of service in the design year. Some of the main downfalls, though, will be the amount of right-of-way take. You'll notice here on the north side, we do have a pretty substantial amount of right-of-way acquisition in this area. There's also some here along the shopping center, actually on both of these shopping centers, and then an additional strip along the backside of these homes on Atlantic Avenue. So another alternative that we looked at is something that would be a little bit less aggressive than the partial displaced lefts, which would be basically using a conventional intersection like there is today, but expanding all approaches to accommodate triple left turns as opposed to the existing dual lefts that are out there today. The main thing with this is that it still will not achieve acceptable level of service in the year 2025, but it will reduce the delay as opposed to leaving the intersection with dual left turns as it is today. So access issues are pretty similar as what we talked about before. Even with this concept, we still have to close the left turn into the Kings Point. The one benefit of this one is we still get to keep the left turn into Seville Terrace, but we would accommodate the U-turns by adding that additional left turn lane at that location. We do get to keep this opening open at into the Atlantic Square, which we had to close in the partial displaced left concept. So that is one benefit of this concept. But again, we still will need to close the signalized intersection here at Jog Road to accommodate the triple left turns and the needed storage for it. So the main line typical section, we're building a 6-lane divided urban typical with a 22-foot median, 11-foot lanes, 7-foot buffered bicycle lanes with a 10-foot sidewalk on the south side and an 8-foot sidewalk on the north side. What we looked at are a couple of alignment alternatives. What we're calling the best fit alignment, which is sort of meandering through the corridor to utilize as much green space as we can on the north side without impacting parking lots, physical structures and things of that sort. So the impacts on this side would be limited mainly with utilities and signage for the most part. So by doing that, we're taking a little bit of right-of-way on the north side, and then whatever other right-of-way we need, we would be taking from the canal right-of-way, which is the L34 canal. We're working with Lake Worth Drainage District regarding the right-of-way acquisition for this concept. They do have a desire to maintain 75 feet of right-of-way for the canal. So in some areas where we would be falling below that 75 feet, we would be looking to either pipe the canal or, we would pipe the canal or end up in some cases also shifting the canal a little bit to the north in order to allow a wider berm maintenance on the south side. So we're still doing that coordination with the Lake Worth Drainage District as we speak. So that was the previous concept went up to Cumberland. So beyond Cumberland to Jog Road, the canal is no longer present. There's only a ditch there. So we would be looking to pipe the ditch, which Lake Worth Drainage District says that they're okay with that. You'll notice the right-of-way takes become a little bit less in these areas. The typical section is still the same as we talked about, the 6-lane urban. So all the features are still the same for this concept. Then the next alternative was to look at trying to hold the north right-of-way line and doing the widening to the south by taking more right-of-way on the south side than what we were doing on the previous. You'll notice there is a small amount of take here. This was only because we're coming through the transition from one of the bridges on Atlantic Avenue. So once we get out of that transition, this then goes to zero, which would be basically once we get to Hagen Ranch Road. So all the remaining right-of-way acquisition will take place on the south side. As I mentioned, we would be looking at doing the piping with culverts or the dual 54-inch culverts or a 10x3 box culvert where we're not able to achieve 75 feet of minimum right-of-way for the canal. All the other features are exactly the same as the other concept we showed, as far as the typical section with the 7-foot buffered bike lanes, 8-foot sidewalk, and 10-foot sidewalk. And this is the same as before, from Cumberland to Jog Road. Again, same typical section. We're still piping that ditch. Not much change. It's basically just little slight variations on the right-of-way as opposed to the previous concept that we showed for the best fit. So here we kind of put together a comparison with the two alignment alternatives as well as the no build condition, which is always an option. You'll see a lot of benefits with the improvements. Vehicle safety obviously is going to be enhanced with this concept. Traffic flow. Here you'll notice bike ped safety. We're going to be improving all of that by doing the 7-foot buffer bike lanes as well as the 8 and 10-foot sidewalks. And there's very minimal impacts as far as environment goes. And the construction cost, these are some estimates that we have right now. We're looking at about $33.9 million for the best fit and $36.7 million for the south alignment. And that would be assuming the partial displaced left concepts at Jog Road. And this does not include right-of-way costs. This is strictly just for construction. So some of the PD&E study components that we're looking at, we've been looking at the engineering, environmental, as well as the public involvement. We tentatively have our public workshop scheduled for June 28th and 29th. The 28th would be an online public workshop. And then the following day, we would have one in person, which would be held at the Hagen Ranch Road Branch Library. And we'd be looking to have our public hearing sometime later this year in November or December. So once the workshop is confirmed, that information will be put on the project website. So some of the meetings with agencies that we've already had, we've done some coordination already with Lake Worth Drainage District, Palm Beach County, and the Palm Beach TPA. And as I mentioned, this is the project website where all of the information for attending the public workshop will be posted once the meeting has been officially scheduled. So these are just some of the key agencies that are involved in the project that we're coordinating with, particularly, as I mentioned, the TPA, Palm Beach County, and the Lake Worth Drainage District. So our timeline and funding, the study was initiated in February of 2020. We anticipate approval for this project in June of 2022. You'll notice we're here approaching our alternatives workshop with the public hearing in the winter time, November, December, as I mentioned, and getting that completion in the summer of 2022. The design is funded for fiscal year 2022, right of way for fiscal year 2024. And the construction phase is currently unfunded and is a candidate project for fiscal year 2027. And as I mentioned, Alexander Estrada, he's our FDOT project manager, which is here today to help answer questions. If you have additional questions, you may also reach out to the FDOT communications manager. The safety message for the department: slow down, stay cool, have safe summer travel. And with that, we thank you and open it up to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Madam Chair. I do have a few members with their hand raised.
Okay, who do we have?
I have Alex, followed by Mo, and then CJ.
Okay, Alex.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions with regards to the bicycle and pedestrian facilities. that are being proposed. So I saw that in the two options that you showed, again, you have, I guess, a proposed 10-foot wide sidewalk on the south side and an 8-foot wide sidewalk on the north side. It appears to me, at least from the diagrams, from the cross sections that you showed, that with the right-of-way that you are planning on acquiring, there could be some additional space on the north side to make the north sidewalk 10-foot wide, consistent with the width of the south sidewalk. So I was curious as to why that discrepancy in the width of the sidewalk between the north side and the south side, even though, again, there seems to be space to make it wider and consistent with the one on the south. That is one question. The second one has to do with the Jog Road intersection and the proposed designs. I guess you identified on the triple left turn as one of the negatives, one of the cons, that there will be longer crossings for pedestrians and bikes, and I agree, it's a much wider intersection. I would point out, though, that with the partial displaced left turn, pedestrians as well as cyclists will now have two conflict points with vehicles, because it's really kind of a two-step crossing for pedestrians and to a certain degree to cyclists too. And to me, that could be also a negative with that one from pedestrian bicycle standpoint. I just wanted to point that out, that is a challenge, because pedestrians now have to kind of cross twice or do it in two steps in order to be able to go from one side to the other of that intersection. I just wanted to highlight that for that one.
Yeah, so again, this is just graphical, but a lot of this boils down to the DOT's standard border width and what we need to have in terms of clear behind the sidewalk. So we could look and see in some areas where there would be a potential to have the 10 feet. It won't be constant. That's one thing, because when we're doing the right-of-way acquisition, we can't take more than what the standard is. So it can be looked into, but it'd probably be something that'll get handled in the design phase.
And another point, thanks, John, is on the north side, we do have a lot more impacts. We have residential, commercial. Most of that is concentrated on the north section of the project, while on the south side, we do have the canal, and as we approach the intersection, we do have impacts to the commercial areas. However, there's less impacts on the south sides to residents versus the north sides, where there's if we are able to provide a wider sidewalk on the north side, there will be major impacts on that side. So that's like another reasoning for this.
But you are proposing to acquire the right of way, right? I mean, I see even from this slide that you have up right now, you are proposing to acquire the right of way, which would give you the space. I understand if this require additional right of way acquisition, that is not part of the proposal. Just seems that this proposal already shows that right of way being acquired. So that was my point.
Yes, but I mean, we're working with Lakewood Drainage District. There's some, there's requirements for the canal widths. So we're working with many constraints and trying to, maximize what we can, while providing the appropriate width for the canal and, decreasing impacts as possible.
Madam Chair, I believe Alex is done, but Connor does have some questions as well.
Okay, Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just had a couple questions on behalf of the TPA. The first question is for DOT. Is DOT obligated to accommodate peak hour traffic 25 years out at a service level D?
Do we have Hassan from our traffic department? Yeah.
Yes, we need just to provide acceptable level of service of D for design year for urban area.
Sorry, could you, I think I missed that. Could you repeat that?
Yes, so we need just to provide acceptable level of service D for design year 2045.
Okay, so that's like a DOT requirement is to
Yes.
try to maintain that. Okay, understood. And the other question on behalf of the TPA is just, it's sort of a general question of in regards to the typical section for the bike lanes. Do we want to accommodate a buffered bike lane, or do we want to allocate that extra 2 feet of space for wider sidewalks, given the fact that it is an interchange and really only mostly aggressive bicyclists will be utilizing that bike lane? Would we want to allocate some more of that space to the sidewalks for less aggressive bicyclists and for more space for the pedestrians? That's more of just a general question. Not really expecting an answer on that one. So, but that's all I had.
Thank you, Connor. Mo, you were next.
Okay, thank you. I probably asked this question before when you, John, and the DOT team presented to us the concept on Jog and Atlantic Avenue. I want to hear your answer really if you have done queuing analysis, because now with this new concept with the displaced left turns, partial displaced, you are going to be creating basically a series of closely spaced intersections. So queuing becomes very key to this whole concept to work properly. And only static analysis, operational analysis at each individual intersection probably is short of showing that full assessment of how well this concept would work. So have you done this queuing analysis to make sure that there will not be blocking of access and or spillovers? And also a big part of it probably would show that true performance is through simulation. And if you've done simulation or analysis or not, and if even you did, interested to know which software you used, because there might be some differences in the available softwares that can be used for simulation of conditions like this.
Don?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mo. Thanks for asking. We checked the queue analysis. That's why we closed the civil trace westbound left turn lane, because we want just to extend the left turn for the eastbound left turn to accommodate the peak hour left turn volumes. And because we saw the queue and we decided to extend that one, we check all other queue lengths or storage length for other approaches as well. And that's why we provide based on the capacity we have for 2045, we check the queue lengths, and we use the Synchro software, as you said. The most appropriate software to analyze this kind of intersection is going to be WISM micro simulation, just to go and do the detailed analysis. But based on the scope, and we check the all queue, and that's why we decided just to close that one to have the better storage for the eastbound left turn volume, because we have the high eastbound left turn volume in the peak hour. Hopefully I answer your question.
Yeah, it seems like you deferred the simulation for another time, but you did only the queuing analysis, right? Is that what?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, truly, I see that DOT, and that's a great concept, great new concept, and it seems like it may be a solution for many of our congested intersections. And I see that if DOT has proposed a similar approach with a mix of other elements at the Beeline and North Lake. And also, I see that lately they have been proposing the same solution for Indiantown and Central Boulevard. So it seems like, you know, it's a widely popular new concept that if DOT is embracing on. And that's why I'm thinking, you know, since we are starting to implement this, it's worth really investing time and resources into vetting this concept fully before we get into, you know, building more and more of them. It seems like the concept is great. It seems it's promising. But again, as I said, you know, because of the inherent basic elements in this concept, it can be very vulnerable to these few glitches that may render it a disaster. When it can be a huge solution, it could also turn to be a huge failure if we don't pay attention to these details. And that's why I truly encourage if DOT to spend the resources and expand probably the scope of your contract with them to do this simulation and see if what we can learn from it. And that would be, you know, something that is beneficial when DOT and us comment on other projects that if DOT is proposing now.
That's a good point. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Next, Connor.
Sure. Sorry, I just wanted to start off by saying I think I might have called it an interchange project, and I just wanted to retract that. The second thing I kind of wanted to hit again on, you know, we're focusing on the traffic flow a lot in this conversation, but I do want to again kind of focus on the pedestrian and bicycle aspects of this roadway. It's something that I think we really want our committee feedback on, is what exactly we want to do in this area in regards to those pedestrian and bicycle you know, access. Obviously the PD&E is going to be focusing mainly on the traffic flow because that seems to be a issue moving into the future. But again, it's a good opportunity for us to look at this corridor and really put the proper infrastructure that our communities want out there. So again, I'm just kind of looking for some committee feedback on this. Do we want to, in this design, pursue the wider bike lanes, or do we want to pursue maybe wider pedestrian facilities here? So wider sidewalk versus wider bike lane. We are given, you know, we are restricted in the right of way that we do have. So we kind of have to pick and choose what we want. But again, we are looking for that committee feedback. So I just wanted to bring that up again. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my next comment, we have CJ.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to echo on the most comment on this. I can easily see this among all the alternative intersection design concept. This could be one of the most effective or ultimate solution for cure the congestion at the intersection, if and only if the right-of-way issue is not there. I can easily see that. I don't know what is the outcome of your public outreach workshop. I can easily see on the north and northwest quadrant and the southeast quadrant, you are literally taking away 8 houses here. Similarly, only 2 houses was affected, but since you are taking away their access road, so equivalent is taking away all the 7 or 8 houses right here. And on the southeast quadrant, you have the extremely business damage and the right away taking we need to accomplish before this idea can be finalized. So my first question is, can you clarify how's the the right-of-way acquisitions, the issue been taken for. And the second comment I have on this, in your conceptual plan, I can see the storage space after the crossover on both quadrants are pretty short. In your Q analysis, are you or the in the section performance analysis, can you make sure that because of the short storage section, storing the limited number of the left turn traffic, that would make easily make the intersection capacity limited when the through movement is concurrent with the left turn. And because of short storage, fewer left turn traffic can be discharged from this storage space and easily created starvation, the problems. So make it the overall performance less efficient. So my second question is, did you specifically look at that performance issue due to the short the storage space after the crossover? And my third comment would be, have you looked at the other alternative intersection design, such as a downstream U-turn at either medium or the next intersections? For example, on the west wing of these intersections, you can make the downstream U-turn at the severe terrace intersections. And then on the east wing, you can also make it the downstream U-turn at the L Clare range, although the distance of that intersection is kind of a little bit far away from that Jog Road. So the travel time back and forth for the left turn to discharge, it could be the impeding factors for this idea, but it's worth investigated and then compare with your proposed the crossover intersection idea. The trucking U-turn could be an issue, but on the west wing, I can easily see if you can extend it, this double right turn lane all the way from Jog Road to the Seville Terrace intersections, which you are also proposed to do. And that would cure that the U-turn issue for the large vehicles such as 18-wheeler. On the east wing at the intersection of the L Clare, I guess you can also create that the turning apron for the larger vehicle. Or as alternative, you can also prohibit it, or at the driver's discretion, they can route it through the L Clare range road through other intersection and then get out from that like Oriole Boulevard at the next intersections and complete their left turn. So have you considered that as one of your alternative? And main advantage of this particular downstream U-turn is it doesn't have that the huge price tag due to the right-of-way acquisitions.
Do you want to start, John?
Well, let's go back for a moment on discussing the right-of-way. As far as the concepts, I know we have, like we're showing a lot of the right-of-way takes. And yes, public approval is going to be a big part of what we move forward with. Like we said, this is the most aggressive one. Even in the triple left concept alternative, there's right-of-way take in the northeast quadrant, which goes further up to the north along the backyards of several homes. So That's going to be part of what we're going to be presenting at our public workshop that I mentioned, which is likely going to take place at the end of June. So we can get the initial feedback from all of the residents and the communities and so forth. Our initial feedback that we've gotten up to this point is that the project is supported. And that's when I say the project, that's the widening of Atlantic Avenue. So the public has not seen these intersection concepts yet. So that's still for us to hear, get that feedback from the public. As far as the left turn for the displaced storage, I think you're talking about here being short, and I'll let Hassan elaborate on that. It's my understanding that the storage is accounted for as well for this in combination with this. So there will be stacking of vehicles in this lane, but you'll also have all the stacking here, correct, Hassan?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so that's what the analysis was based on for developing these queue lengths, that this was the minimum that was needed for the displaced storage to make the intersection operate acceptable. I kind of lost you when you were talking about El Claire Ranch Road because it's so far down the road from here. Being after Seville Terrace, the next intersection is Cumberland Drive. What we did do at Cumberland is, since we are having to close this left in here and close the left into here, we're assuming the U-turns will be made at Cumberland. So we did add a U-turn lane at Cumberland and put additional pavement on the south side, like a bulb out for those 18-wheelers to be able to make that movement. So there is more pavement at that intersection. As far as U-turn openings, Hassan, do you want to talk about that, the alternatives that you looked at?
Yes, once we evaluate the Jog Road intersection and we recognize that there is no option for the intersection expansion to provide acceptable level of service, we evaluated this intersection using the FDOT-ICE tool, which is intersection control evaluation tools. And through that tool, we evaluated multiple options, just median U-turn, as you said. Another option was quadrant. And none of them just provide the acceptable level of service. So as you said about the truck movements and the other issues, I don't like median U-turn for this corridor as well, but it didn't provide acceptable level of service. We look at the overpass option also and look at the impacts and different options we look at and we come up with this solution, which is more reasonable and doable for this location based on the nature of this intersection and the all business impacts and the houses. So yes, we had all evaluation for multiple alternatives. And in terms of the storage, yes, we extend the storage just to remove or alleviate any congestion for the through movement. As you said, the starvation may happen, but we checked that one and it didn't help because this corridor is just not for Atlantic east-west. The Jog Road also, we have a lot of traffic. Northbound left turn, as you can see here, we extend that one to 750 storage, 750 feet storage for the northbound left turn to the, because we had 850 vehicles for PM peak. So it's a heavy traffic for this intersection, not only Atlantic and both Atlantic and Jog Road. And so we come up with multiple solutions. We had several discussions with FDOT, TPA, and county as well. And we decided just to move forward with this option, and triple left is an alternative.
Thank you. Could you articulate the reason why you think the downstream U-turn is not, you have evaluated that alternative, but was less feasible than this crossover? Maybe I missed something.
Because of the truck volume, as you said, the truck volumes for this corridor, they come from Turnpike, going and using this road to go to the I-95, this corridor is a connection to that one. And in terms of the truck U-turns, even if you want just to provide the, bulb out or anything for just accommodate the design vehicle, still you're going to have the slow down vehicles. The traffic operation is not, even the software, I don't believe that they can consider that the slowdown of the heavy vehicles to make a U-turn is not the normal U-turn. They're coming to the U-turn section and they just want to, you cannot just discharge a lot of vehicles on that phase, So even when you have the high truck volumes, I wouldn't like just to have the U-turn to access to this point. And
Sure.
the 450 vehicles for the left turn eastbound and 350 for the westbound left turn. And you want to put everything for the U-turn volume is kind of the, for the coordinated system is kind of the red flag for me.
Yeah, I have seen the left turn traffic number, at least in the section. I do not know the 2045 projection is, but today's volumes is about 200-ish. And if you're talking about 8 to 10% trucking, you're talking about 20 truck within an hour. So I don't know. I mean, like I say, if the right-of-way issue is not there, I regard this as the most effective one. But when the right-of-way issue presents you the challenge, then probably in your evaluation of alternative design need to factor in other such as the downstream intersection, which do not have that issues. So and then total package, it can be in terms of the total delay converting to the monetary value and combined with the right-of-way cost to make the overall assessment decisions.
Yes, correct. The traffic and safety is only one factor for the final decision. We are going to have for the entire study, at the end of the study, we are going to have alternative metrics to show different factors such as the right-of-way impacts, environmental impacts, and the traffic and safety is only one component. We are going to have other things, and we're going to discuss that one to the public workshop and see the public feedback about this. You're right.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I look forward to this kind of idea being deployed into other part of the county, including the Indian Town Road and the Central Boulevard intersection, as Mo has mentioned. Thank you for that. And in terms of their left turn and the lane configuration is quite similar. But I do demand, I do encourage that the downstream U-turn be included, because the right-of-way issue on Indian Town Road, both northwest quadrant and the southeast quadrants, you're talking about a huge business damage. Into that your overall land acquisitions, the right-of-way acquisition costs. So please do consider our alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, CJ. Next is Brian Davis.
Yes, I got a couple of questions. Was there one of the design alternatives that showed Seville Terrace being closed to a left turn westbound?
Yes, this one.
Correct. The partial displaced left, which is shown right now, closes the westbound left turn into Seville Terrace, which was why I was just mentioning that movement will then have to be accommodated at a U-turn at the next intersection over, which is Cumberland. So at Cumberland, it's currently a T intersection. So we would be looking at putting a U-turn lane there and adding some bulb out pavement for those trucks to be able to turn and have to come back. So yeah, that is going to be a closure at this location for that movement. The left out will still be maintained though, coming out of Seville.
Yeah, I mean, that's King's Point. There's 70 200 units in there, and that's one of their two main sources of ingress egress.
Yeah.
Have fun with that at the public meeting.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, we have this to show this is what works in terms of the operations point, but the other alternatives, as I mentioned, with the triple lefts or just maintaining the duals, which is going to be very high intersection delay, will at least allow you to still keep this left turn movement in, and we would have that dual left actually to accommodate the U-turns that would be required for closing this opening that's here today.
No, I understand. It's the balancing act of which,
Yeah.
what do you favor? I want to make sure you're aware that, I mean, Kings Point is a very substantial
Oh, I know.
constituency. Yeah.
And like I said, we know that our understanding is the project is supported, but they have not seen this yet for them to come and say, yeah, we support this configuration. So as Hassan was just saying, public input is very important. We don't just say, hey, this is what works. We don't care what anyone says. So we're going to present it, get feedback from the public. We are always interested in getting approval from the TPA and the county as well, because I'm sure they'll hear the screaming residents if they don't like something. So the final decision will be made collectively with the TPA, the Palm Beach County, and the residents.
Right. And then the other question, just for sort of a truth and advertising consideration, is if you're going to be taking sort of on the north side there towards Villages of Oriole, is there a likelihood that you're going to be entertaining noise abatement walls in that 20 to 30 feet that you've got? Because that really changes quality of life.
Yeah, the noise analysis is underway right now. I had some discussion with our noise analyst yesterday, and he says the preliminary results are showing that there would be some potential need for noise walls somewhere in this area. I don't have the details of it, but as far as the rest of the project, he didn't indicate that we would probably need any noise walls anywhere other than near the Jog Road intersection, somewhere in this area.
Okay, yeah, that was my main concern, particularly as you approach Cumberland, that with some of the, I mean, and obviously right there, we're already talking about potential full takes, but
yeah,
just to maybe have that component, you know, when you're going public, if you know that these sections may well need a noise abatement wall, and to include that disclosure, because that really can affect somebody. It's like, great, I'm not being taken, but now I'm looking at a 12-foot high concrete panel that's, you know, 10 feet off my back patio.
Mm-hmm. Currently today, there is a privacy wall.
Right.
Off the top of my head, I don't know how tall that is, 6 feet, 8 feet. Somewhere.
Probably 6 feet, yeah.
Yeah, 6 feet's not too high. So that wall, even through here where you see this red line, there could be some potential impacts to that wall if they would have to replace it in kind and so forth. That'll have to be looked at, or will it have to be meet noise abatement criteria and have it higher to be a noise wall? That'll have to be evaluated. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Brian. Mike Odell?
A lot of my questions got put out there. Brian did a good job on those. One thing I hadn't heard you talk much about, though, is the impact to the businesses. Trying to study a little bit while you've been talking about the current traffic movements to those that are going to be proposed. Have you looked at any kind, or do you have answers to the amount of traffic that these businesses are currently seeing, and how you will disrupt that? Obviously, because there's many of the changes have been, alternates have been eliminated. And then the second part is the comment about the pedestrians versus the pathways. Looking at the volume of traffic, I guess my initial reaction to this is that we would be better served by improving our pathways as opposed to dedicating bicycle lanes, moving people off of the roadway with the use of bicycles and pedestrians seems like a better way of trying to solve some of the other issues. With all the volume of traffic you're talking about here, it would seem that devoting more attention to pathways would be a safer alternative than trying to accommodate bicyclists, although I know they're needed, but it would seem that a definite way of improving this and minimizing maybe some some accidents in the future would be to promote more pedestrian use at this intersection area. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Margie, do we have anyone else?
Yes, I have Jim Bell with his hand raised.
Okay, Jim?
Yes, I was just wondering if it's within FDOT's scope of work to add shade trees along Atlantic Avenue in the green areas that you showed previously along the sidewalk, whether that can be also in the future right-of-way areas that you're going to have and also in the existing green areas.
Alex, you want to talk or you want me to cover
Right
that?
now, yeah, right now we're not adding landscaping component as part of our project. Usually that would come after construction. There's been talks with our landscape architect, see if there's a potential for after construction is complete to come in and do some type of a landscaping project. But right now it's not a part of our of the scope.
Jim, anything else?
How does that work that it gets put into a later scope? I'm not familiar how that process.
So it is not part of landscape. It would not be part of this project. However, when we program landscaping projects, they would come in after the at the end of the construction of the project, and they would put in trees. But right now, I believe that it's not funded. This is a candidate item. It's not funded for construction. So it would be hard to program a project to, I guess, figure out which year that would go into. So right now it's in the 2026 is a fiscal year. So we haven't looked into programming and a landscaping project, but it's a possibility once we get further into design to see what the alternative is and what are the what are the opportunities out there that will be able to maybe have a future project to have that added.
I mean, it seems to make sense considering that you're now taking away right away, and also the concerns that Brian brought up previously about the wall and the buffer. I mean, buffering would kind of go, the street trees could act as both buffering along with any other wall you want to do, and also shade the sidewalk. So that's just the only comment I have that could possibly be programmed.
Thank you, Jim. It's a good comment. In-house, we have Kevin with his card raised.
I just want to follow up on Connor's comment. I think, and I agree that if we could accommodate the pedestrian pathways to better facilitate bicycle movements, I think that would be obviously a safer alternative. However, if we do need to continue to have a bicycle lane along the edge of the roadway, I don't think we want to decrease that 7 foot. We need that 2 foot buffer there for sure. And so I don't think we want to sacrifice that if we're going to have a bicycle lane there on the side of the road. That definitely needs to have that. The other thing I wanted to comment on was on Mr. Davis and Mr. Bell's comments about the this left turn movement that you're going to close into that residential area. I think, depending on what you get from your public input, that you have some viable alternatives to that if that doesn't fly based on public input. And so, how that alters what your ultimate plans are, or ultimate goals here in this project. So I think that there may be some strong opposition to that left turn closing there. So I just want to caution that, and obviously you probably have thought about this, I hope, but there may be some rethinking of how you're going to accommodate that if that does not meet with the public's input. That's all I have.
Thank you. Margie, do we have any other hands raised?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, then I would like to also provide support for what Mike Odell said, expanding the pathways versus the bike lanes, especially in a high intensity situation like it looks like you have. And then I would just have a question: is this partial displaced left turn lane? I'm assuming we don't have one in Palm Beach County. Is there a location where this has been successful that you can point us to, or not?
So is that question for me, Kara?
No, Mo, I was asking them, but if you can answer, that would be fine.
The question again, could you repeat it?
Where has the PDLT been implemented is what you're asking, right?
I'm looking for a partial displaced left turn lane. Because when Connor said he called it an intersection, that's essentially what came to my mind. Seems like you're making the situation worse for pedestrian and bicyclists in the intersection. I'm just wondering, where has this been used before? So we can visually maybe, whether we go to
I'm
Google
not aware
Earth
of any in Palm Beach County. Partially displaced left turns, but I know that there are plans for 2 other locations. One of them is, I believe, is confirmed, which is Beeline at North Lake. It's going to be built, I think, in 3 years from now.
I'm sorry, Mo, you had your hands over your mouth. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
So the way I understand your question is if we have any example of displaced left turn lane in the county, right?
Yes.
And my answer is that I'm not aware of any. And again, I know that if DOT has confirmed plans of building one that includes also other options within the same project at Beeline and North Lake Boulevard. And that project, I believe, is programmed for construction in 2 to 3 years from now.
Thank you, Mo.
Sure.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. CJ raised his hand again.
Who did?
CJ.
Oh, CJ.
Thank you. I just want to add something to your questions. So far, yes, I have seen none in the state of Florida, but in several parts of the country, in other states, they do have the crossover or continuous flow intersection or displacement left turn, whatever you call it, implemented in the different parts of the country, but primarily is on the suburban area where the right-of-way is not the issue. Again, I cannot stress enough, when right-of-way issue is not there, you can do whatever you want. But in the urban area where the right-of-way is limited, you got to think about other alternatives. This is the one has the very expensive price tag, and other alternative is worthwhile to further investigate on. Thanks.
Thank you, CJ. And your local government coordination looks like, looking at your public involvement slide, you have meetings with agencies, you've met with Lake Worth Drainage District, Palm Beach County, Palm Beach TPA. What local government coordination, who are you coordinating as far as local government?
The individuals, you mean, from Palm Beach County?
No, I'm sorry. You have bullets, and your second bullet says local government coordination, but you don't have any meetings there. Who do you plan to coordinate with? And when will you start that?
Well, that's going to be when we send out our notifications for the public meetings and hearing. They all get notified, so they'll be invited to attend all of that and provide feedback and so forth. And if there are requested meetings from any of those agencies, we would hold them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other comments?
I see no other hands raised, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Thank you. We'll move on to Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7 study kickoff. I'd like to invite James Reinhardt, TPA Transit Coordinator, to present this item.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, that you may have missed it with your notes, but the next item is 3B, the draft mobility vision project map.
Oh, sorry, I've written all over it.
It's okay.
Sorry. Next item is the draft mobility vision project map. I'd like to invite Andrew, the TPA Deputy Director of Program Development, to present this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Andrew Euler, and I'll be presenting just a quick presentation on draft mobility vision. So this is a discussion that's really been happening throughout the county. It's been happening in our adoption of our long-range transportation plan a few years ago. And really, this is high level today. In your backup, you might have saw was just a map. There's no cost estimates, no table for you today. It's really just a map and talking through more of the high level overall where this is heading. Our mission to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the transportation system and a vision of a safe, efficient, and connected multimodal transportation system. So our TPA mission and vision, and again, in this, I wanted to emphasize again the collaboration aspect of our mission. When it comes to this future mobility vision, it really is going to take collaboration, not just our local jurisdictions and those in government and our facility owners, but this is really going into land use decisions and also private collaboration and where we're going to invest in the private sector. So why develop a mobility vision? So this was a board direction to implement our desires plan elements of the long range transportation plan. So for all of you who are here or just those who are new, we adopted a 2045 long range transportation plan in December of 2019. And in that plan, we had a list of desires for all types of different multimodal projects. Next is to accommodate growth and economic development. So focused development in areas with existing infrastructure. So making that land use and development and transportation connection. Investing in mobility options to promote safety and efficiency. And then also this helps provide the private sector some more predictability about where to develop. So knowing that certain transportation infrastructure will be going into the future and it's to be dedicated to go in that area can provide more predictability for them. And so how would this be funded? So outside of just the dedicated federal and state funding that we receive here in the county that we can prioritize here at the TPA, we're really going to need to look into some local dedicated funding source. And the discussion's been revolving more around a local transportation surtax as the most feasible option for that. And so what this would do for us with a local dedicated funding source, such as this local transportation surtax, is allow us to go after federal and state discretionary grants. So some of those competitive sources of funding out there in the nation and in the state that requires a local match. And then also helps us accelerate some of those reconstruction of roadways earlier on in the process. And then also lastly, when it comes to some of the services for operations and maintenance of mobility, such as transit, this would provide a dedicated revenue source long-term for that ongoing operations and maintenance year to year. So what is in the content of this mobility vision? So in the back, if you saw a map, but to summarize what will be going into this is the 561 transit plan that was adopted by the TPA, and then connecting state roadways with that. So implementing the select transit investments in each quarter of the 561 plan, and then rebuilding state roads with pedestrian bicycle facilities, more efficiency of the traffic signals, and then also safety. There's also county transportation investments. So rebuilding county roadways for pedestrian bicycle facilities and safety. Also enhancing traffic signal technology and efficiency at those signals. And then widening roadways in areas that are still needing to be widened, who rely mostly on the car. And then lastly, city transportation investments. So rebuilding city streets again for safety with an inclusion of pedestrian bicycle facilities. And then also investing in local mobility services to help more with that last mile connections to the 561 corridors and to serve more local routes in those cities. So I'll go through the map that was provided in the backup, starting with the 561 transit corridors. And so this is the ones, again, from the long range transportation plan. We have 5 north-south and 6 east-west corridors, creating one connected transportation system. And you'll see in the next presentation by James and our staff, who's going to go through this, the kickoff for the Okeechobee Boulevard, but we've already completed the US 1 corridor previously a couple of years ago, and we have products that came out of that. And so we're doing the same thing with Okeechobee Boulevard, and then we're making our way through these other corridors as well. There's the pedestrian bicycle investment corridors as well. So these are priorities that we determined from the long range transportation plan, our multimodal demand analysis, where people live, work, play, learn, and access transit. And so in these investment corridors, we have determined there's about 117 miles of FDOT roadways, 189 miles of Palm Beach County roadways, and 68 miles of municipal roadways, where there's still a need for some pedestrian bicycle investments of a larger priority. Oh, can you go? It skipped pretty far ahead. Thank you. Next are the roadway projects. And on the map, you'll see the ones, the county road projects. And these are the ones from the long range transportation plan. So these are the ones that were discussed and adopted into our LRTP for 2045. And so those are all the road widenings that you see on that map. And then lastly, additional projects. These aren't mapped specifically, but these are those municipal mobility services that I mentioned, and then also traffic signal investments by our maintaining agencies. So that includes Palm Beach County and then also Boca Raton. So updating traffic signals throughout the county with greater technology for improved efficiency. So in total, that would be all the projects with in this vision, and also other ones that will be discussing in the next few years for municipalities, and refinements to all these products as well. And then we'll also be coming to you all with cost estimates in the future. So here's that timeline for implementing this vision that originated in our LRTP for 2045. So again, we've refined the mobility vision elements, and this is really going to happen in the next few years. Receiving feedback from stakeholders in the community, getting those cost estimates refined for all the products and the services, and then the ongoing operations and maintenance of those services. And then funding allocations to the implementing agencies. So what is going to be that split between what can be paid for with the federal and state funds that we get that are dedicated? How much can that discretionary grant money cover? And then what would be the dedicated local funding source to make up the match for those? And then after that's all figured out, really going more with an educational campaign in early 2024, explain more of this vision to the public and to all other stakeholders and to the private sector. And then we have here a ballot initiative for 2024. And so I mentioned the preferred method of getting a dedicated local revenue source as a surtax. And right now there is an infrastructure surtax in place. And once that sunsets, this is really setting us up in the future to go to voters to request to continue that surtax going forward, but more towards investing in a mobility vision like this. And really, that's all I have for you. This was the high level discussion, and we'll be coming back to you all in the coming months and over the next few years. You'll see this discussion develop even more. But we wanted to give you an overview and hear a little bit of your thoughts if you had any. Thank you.
Are there any public comments on this item?
Sorry, my microphone was off. No, Madam Chair.
Do we have any committee members that would like to comment?
I have Jim with his hand raised.
Jim?
Yeah, I was just wondering with the map that you show here, if it's possible, if you could change one of the blue colors to like a purple or something, because in some of the printouts here, it looks pretty close to the two blue colors.
That's a good suggestion. Thank you. We'll make sure for our maps are print friendly in the
Yeah,
future.
or whatever color you want to use, but just you know, something that's not the same type of blue or hue, close blue.
I don't have any more virtual hands raised, but I do have Mike with his hand raised.
Mike?
I have a question. Have you thought of, and I don't know if this is part of it, but putting the tri-rail extension going north in this?
Yes, and we apologize. I believe our map in the packet didn't have it on there. The one I show on the screen in this PowerPoint did have it. But yes, it's going to have the extension both to the hospital, the VA hospital, and then it also has the coastal link corridor. That's a good catch.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I have CJ with his hand raised.
CJ?
Oh, thank you again. Andrew, what type of traffic signal technology investment you have discussed? I know the county has experimented adaptive traffic signal system before on several corridor, 2 or 3, I forgot, and maybe 1 or 2 in Boca. They sort of concluded that the adaptive traffic signal, the effectiveness is sort of in questions. So I don't know if you have intention to explore that technology furthermore in the future, or other type of technology that we are not aware of. Thank you.
That's a good question, CJ. Thank you. I hate to call it Mo right now, but I'm going to have to. So what we were requesting through this was we reached out to Palm Beach County Traffic Engineering and then also Boca Raton for the types of technology investments they would need and other upgrades they need at these signals. And they provided that list and that high level cost estimate. I can try, it might take me a second, or I can forward it to you later. Those actually, those numbers and those investments, it's going to be in a future project table. But if Mo can answer it right now, that'd be great.
Sure. Good question, CJ. This is $1 million or $1 billion question, probably. Technology is evolving very fast. There are so many changes happening on how we are providing for the mobility in our community and what we will be providing in the future, whether it's going to be transit, it's going to be fixed route, large capacity vehicles, or would it be circulators, or would it be ride sharing or whatever. Same thing applies to signal technology. We don't have any clear vision on, or we cannot guess, we don't have a crystal ball to try to tell you what would be the best or most suitable traffic signal system or technology that we may use in 20, 25 years from now. We don't have any immediate plans in the immediate or short term to change or upgrade our system. However, some of the estimates that we provided were based on replacing our decaying infrastructure more than anything else. So we have a lot of span wire installations that need to be rebuilt. We have many of them that will need to be upgraded to mast arms. Even some of the mast arms that we have are estimated to need, or a good percentage of them need to be replaced down the road. So those numbers are gross and high level, as Andrew mentioned. They are the best guesstimate that we could come up with. It's the same, applies. I have same concern and or question about the cost that we'd have for implementing the 561 vision or plan. at this point, I'm not sure that we even know if that would be a good or a solution for our needs in the future with, as I said, with the evolving technologies and many of the reports that we read and see from the experiences of many other larger municipalities and urbanized areas that have experimented with the fixed route, high capacity vehicles. Everybody agrees that this is something of the past that we cannot use in the future. So there are a lot of questions and guesswork and guesstimate work going into what we think we will need and how much money we will need down the road. It needs to have a lot of debate and discussion before we could come to a good conclusion on what we need and how much we need. One thing that I want to caution you with, which from our experience with the surtax program that we have now and we are dealing with, which will sunset, I believe, in 2026. And Andrew brought this up as, the new mobility tax or surtax that they are proposing or they want to propose would kind of pick up on that when that one sunsets. One thing that we learned was that it is wrong and very limiting to try to specify with any level of certainty what type of improvement you want to fund at one point in the future, because much of what we do is estimate, vision, and we make our judgment based on what we know at this point. So we were faced with this because the handlers of that proposal wanted to sell it to the public, and they thought, it's easier to sell to the public if they give them specific list of projects with specific, description of what needs to be done. And once we got to that point, we found out that much of that is not necessary, and or we better reallocate the resources to do something else. So these are big questions that we and Andrew and we will work with him on this to try to avoid these pitfalls again. That's it. I hope I answered your question. I took forever, but.
CJ, does that answer your question? Okay, I'll assume yes. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.
I put him to sleep, Kira.
I doubt it. All right, next item is the Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7 study kickoff. I'd like to invite James, TPA Transit Coordinator, to present this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is James Reinhardt. I'm the Transit Coordinator for the Palm Beach TPA. I'm going to be providing an update for the Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7 multimodal corridor study. Okay. The overview for today, we're going to be talking about the study purpose and the limits, study components, public and stakeholder engagement, and then wrapping up with the timeline for this study. So for a quick reminder for everybody in the room and also a refresh from the last presentation, Okeechobee Boulevard and the State Road 7 corridors are a part of the TPA's 561 plan, which is 5 north-south corridors and 6 east-west corridors that create that one enhanced transit connected system that connects Palm Beach County to the rest of Southeast Florida. The purpose of this study is to evaluate multimodal alternatives for pedestrian and bicycle, as well as transit, and then looking at commercial and personal vehicle alternatives as well. The study limits for this, it's going to be starting first at the Wellington Mall in the south and moving north up State Road 7 to Okeechobee Boulevard, then continue east along Okeechobee Boulevard to Rosemary Square and stopping at Rosemary Avenue. We've identified along this corridor that there's 42,000 residents within a half mile, and also 14,000 households and 46,000 jobs within this half-mile area around the corridor, which is why we feel that it's so important that we're doing this study to identify a safe and efficient way to connect these people from their homes to jobs or from other places to the jobs along this corridor in a safe and efficient connected way through multiple modes of transportation. So the components of this study, we're going to be looking at various transit alternative analyses as well as roadway alternative analysis. We're going to be looking at those and sharing that to the public and key stakeholders through our public and stakeholder engagement process, which I'll get into a little bit more detail on the next slide. And once we've identified a locally preferred alternative through the public and stakeholder engagement, we'll be completing a health impact assessment for what kind of impacts that alternative can have on the health of the community along that corridor, as well as what kind of land use and economic development that can occur along the corridor because of the alternatives that have been selected. And to get into a little bit more detail on the public and stakeholder engagement, we're going to be having a study advisory working group that will have 4 meetings. That working group is going to be primarily technical professionals along the corridor that will be meeting with us throughout the process and reviewing the work that we've done up to date and giving us feedback. We'll also be doing a health impact assessment working group that will be comprised of medical professionals and health stakeholders along the corridor. It'll be a similar process to the study advisory working group. They're going to be meeting 4 times throughout the process as well and helping develop that health impact assessment. We're going to be doing land use and economic development outreach. That will be comprised of 2 rounds of meetings with the local governments along the corridor and getting input about the land use and economic development opportunities. And then also hosting a public workshop, or not a public workshop, a workshop with those key stakeholders, as well as the business, the private and public sector along that corridor. We're going to be having 32 key stakeholder interviews. Those interviews will be both public and private partners along this corridor to get their feedback about the study and what we're looking to do and what kind of alternatives that we can get to a locally preferred alternative. And then we're going to be having public outreach events, and those public outreach events, there'll be 3 public workshops that we'll be scheduling, I believe beginning in the late summer and going into the fall. And then we'll be doing field visits. We've also called them Stories of the Corridor. If some of you remember from the US1 study, we worked with a consultant that went out and they did a series of interviews along the corridor and provided a lot of really good feedback and insight from those that are especially riding transit along that corridor. And then finally, we'll have a website that will be a go-to location for any updated information on the public events and also materials that are being developed as part of this study. And then we'll be creating an online interactive survey as part of our public outreach event as well. Go back. And so for this timeline, that's a lot of public engagement and a lot of work that we're going to be doing. So I've broken this timeline out into quadrants. So in the first quadrant from April to June, we've kicked off this study and we're going to be hosting the first study advisory working group and HIA meetings, and then start holding the stakeholder interviews, those 32 stakeholder interviews that I mentioned at the previous slide, as well as go out and do the Stories of the Corridor field research. The next quadrant is the July to September. We'll have the second round of those working group meetings and our first public outreach event, as well as our land use and economic development meetings and workshop. That third quadrant have the third round of meetings, of working group meetings, and that second public outreach event. And then we'll be presenting an update to the TPA board and committees in December. And then in that final final group, we will be wrapping up the project, having our last round of meetings and our third public outreach event so that we can present the study to the TPA board and committees in March of 2022. And so ways to get involved, if you want to learn more about this, get involved in the study, share about the public outreach events. We have a website called for this project. You can find it at palmbeachtpa.org/Okie. You can participate in the public workshops. You find out more on the website, and you can promote participation in the community. And please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions as you're looking at the website, or if you have any update or any comments about this study. And so my last slide is questions, but I'm going to actually have Robin, our assistant, going to kick it over and show you what the project website looks like. We launched it, I believe, yesterday. It's primarily going to be, right now it doesn't have a lot of content on it at the moment because this website will be developed and will grow and develop as the project does as well, with more content and notices about public outreach events. So once she has it up, we'll take a look at it.
And Madam Chair, while she's bringing that up, I just wanted to note for you that on this one, we don't have any public comments.
Thank you.
Great. So this is our homepage for the study. We've got, at the top, we have all of our tabs for how you can get involved in the transportation and land use analysis work that's going to be conducted throughout the study, as well as the health impacts assessment, and then key documents that are going to be developed throughout this project will be available in that documents tab, and then a way to contact the project team throughout the study. And if we scroll down on the home page, we have our purpose and then ways to participate. For right now, we'll be adding more as we get a survey developed and shared on our website. And then we are developing a comment map that if we go down to the towards the bottom of the page, Robin, we've got our study area and then some quick facts, fun facts about the corridor. And then below that, we have a comment map that once we get it finalized and launched, you'll be able to click on it and then drop in comments on the map and related to this study. And that is all I have for the morning. Does anybody else have any questions?
Okay, you said you had no public comment. Do any committee members have their hands raised?
Yes, I have Alex, Mo, and Brian.
Okay, let's start with Alex.
Yeah. Hi, James. I just wanted to find out, have you actually identified the specific members of the study advisory working group? Because I see that the first meeting should happen no later than June based on the schedule that you provided to us. So I assume that first meeting should be happening pretty soon.
Yes, we have identified those members. We shared the invitation to the directors of the county and local municipalities agencies that are going to be a part of it, and then they had the option in their invitation to accept or to add a proxy from their department to represent their department. And so those invitations have been sent out, and calendar invites as well.
Could you share with us who you send it to, please? Would it be possible?
Yes, I can. It was sent to members of the communities that are along that corridor. So there's the county, of course, Palm Beach County, because of the unincorporated areas of the county. And then we sent invitations to representatives from West Palm Beach, Royal Palm Beach, and Wellington as well. And for a more detailed list, I could email or look at that and then reach out and share the exact context from that list.
Please.
Thank you, Alex. Mo?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the same question, the composition of the project task or advisory panel. And I noticed that Jim mentioned that they have a panel of experts included within that group. And my question was whether truly, I have, of course, I have access to that and I'm part of this too, but I noticed that it's more of a representation than an expert makeup of the panel. And obviously you need to have, obviously, representation there. You are right, you have the, I believe, chambers of commerce, they're included, and local governments, etc., which makes sense. But my advice is really to seek and add maybe a few more expert people that have expertise in this area, and they can have viable, good technical input into the working of this group, of this project. That's my only advice and comment.
Okay.
And if you care, I can recommend a couple of people that I know that have extensive expertise that can be, their input could be extremely valuable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Brian?
I had a couple questions for you, James. Back on your study purpose slide, you said transit and you kind of glossed over supportive land uses. Is your intent to recommend new land uses along the corridor?
We are going to be conducting a land use and economic development analysis along the corridor based on what is the locally preferred alternative for transit and roadway alternative along that corridor. And so we're going to be conducting an analysis to identify what kind of opportunities there are for land use. We're not going to be necessarily proposing any new specific development. We're just going to be identifying what kind of opportunities there are.
I would recommend that you consider there's a lot of vacant land in the unincorporated county or land that could be repurposed. I mean, just for example, here in Vista Center where I am, we've got multiple undeveloped tracks. We've got a golf course, which I worked here 15 years and I've never seen anyone play golf on, so I don't know what's going on with that. We have the Dead Century Village Golf Course that's coming in for 700 units for a zoning approval. We've got the old Town of Palm Beach dump site that's asking for another 700 units. And you've got a couple other parcels along Okeechobee. I mean, those are your real shots at open, you know, appropriate designations for land use that may be transit supportive, that don't involve, you know, wholesale redevelopment. Those are the kinds of things I think are low hanging fruit that you could very easily program in, or, you know, suggest other things that maybe, you know, work to your advantage. I don't know, there's some things. Also, I would recommend that you involve the Westgate CRA, which, although they're unincorporated county, they tend to have a much more active role in land use and zoning. They have a lot of incentives to do redevelopment. They've got a lot of their infrastructure in place, and they're probably an area that's very ripe for redevelopment, that's more transit supportive and is closer to downtown West Palm Beach. So there are some opportunities there as well, and I would recommend that you get them involved early and often, beyond sort of the level of, you know, high level, you know, local government staff. Be happy to be involved more. It's just, there's a lot of opportunity on Okeechobee if you're going to affect land use changes and try and get something that's transit supportive.
Brian, for your benefit, I believe Ramsey is sitting on this group.
Okay.
Right, Jim? That's if I recall.
Yes.
Director Young. Okay.
Yes, Ramsey has been invited.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Question, Kara?
Kim?
Hey guys, sorry about that, and apologies, no video for me today. Just a suggestion, of course, the TPA staff is aware, but maybe not the committee so much. There's a mobility plan recently developed for Indian Trail Improvement District, and of course, that community will want to be engaged as a stakeholder. And so I just want to point that out. Lots of concerns raised over time, of course, about access from the community to jobs, goods, and services. And so just a heads up.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim. Do we have any other hands raised?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
Moving on, the next item are administrative items. These are informational items only. There are no staff presentations unless requested by a committee member. Are there any public comments for these items?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Next is our next TAC meeting is scheduled for July 7th, 2021. Thank you for your patience with us as we've conducted this meeting today. At this time, our committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you.